You have to be relentless and you have to be prepared to give it everything. And I think that, in a way, being so close to death and that being so brutal has taught us and really scarred us in a positive way, because there's just no way we're going back to that.
Right.
Like, we raised that money, we went like our life depended it again, and we've had a record month every single month since. And not a single non-record month. And like, I intend to keep that streak going.
Welcome to Super Companies. My name is Greg Shove. This is the podcast where we discuss how to build a super company, because they're going to be the most valuable companies in the world in the coming decade. So this has been a tough week for me in terms of getting the team to do what I've asked them to do, which is commit to one primary LLM platform. Because I think that super teams or super companies will happen faster when you commit the team or organization to a primary AI. At Section, for the first couple of years, that was ChatGPT. And like a lot of others, for the last year, that became Claude. And we fell in love with Claude, Claude Cowork, and Claude Code. But the last couple of weeks, my power users at Section have been complaining about Claude. The tone and style of writing, content generation, and thought partnership all seem a little weird from Claude these days. And those users, my power users, are switching to ChatGPT. And of course, taking advantage of the new integration of Codex into ChatGPT into a single desktop app experience. And it's really challenging this principle that I've held pretty strongly, and one that I advise clients to do as well, which is a primary LLM platform. So at this moment, we're going to be a hybrid. 60 to 80% of our workload will be on Claude, but we're moving more and more to ChatGPT. Maybe that's the reality for the next couple of years. Maybe the right model is a hybrid, where most of your team are on a primary AI, but you do let your power users, your AI catalysts, your AI builders, you let them find and pick the best models they want for the tasks and agents that they want to build. Maybe I'm just chickening it out, or maybe that's the reality for the next couple of years. We'll see. And in this week's episode, I'm talking to Joel Morris, co-founder and co-CEO of Fanvue, UK-based AI-powered creator platform, enabling social media influencers and creators to make more money from their audiences. Fanvue is a super company in the making, in my opinion, and has exploded from almost running out of cash in 2023 to over $200 million in revenue. Joel will talk about how he works with AI himself and how his team has bet on Claude as their company's second brain, so they can build Fanvue into a billion-dollar company with just hundreds of employees. That's super company-like stats, if he can pull it off. Here's Joel. Joel, welcome to Super Companies, the podcast about how do we build the most valuable companies in the world. Glad you're here.
It's a pleasure, Greg.
Yeah, where are you joining us from?
London, Canary Wharf.
Canary Wharf.
No one lives.
Right. It was kind of like the financial district or something?
Yeah, it's very finance, but we're kind of making it a little bit more hip these days, going crazy economy.
Why'd you end up there? Like, you're like AI influencers.
Exactly. It was really affordable high rises sort of 5-6 years ago, and we kind of just never left. It's also quite good. There's nothing going on, so like it's not so bad when you're always home working.
All you do is work. Yeah. That reminds me of the venture capitalist Bill Gurley from Benchmark. He's now retired. Someone asked him, how come there's not great companies that are really originated in Austin, Texas, which is where he's from? He's like, it's simple. Like, there's too much fun in Austin. Music, food, all that stuff. In the Bay Area, there's nothing going on. It's boring as shit, and everybody just grinds all the time.
So true. It makes a big difference.
So you're grinding. You've been grinding in Canary Wharf for the last 5 years.
Exactly.
You were a child prodigy. Maybe not child. What were you? A teenage prodigy?
I started YouTube at 13. Uploaded for a long time, 600 days in a row before I got any traction. Sold sweets at school to fund my camera, video capture to get it going.
2 years, every day.
Every day.
Before getting any traction. By the way, where were your parents? Like, did they think this was a good idea, or?
They thought it was a terrible idea.
Yeah, sure.
I was like, listen, Mum, the reason I'm not trying hard in school, is because I'm actually going to record video games. I'm going to scream over the top of them. I'm going to put it on the internet, and that's how I'm going to make my career. And she obviously thought I was smoking
Sure.
something. So
Yeah, yeah.
it didn't go down well. That was a big fight. That was my biggest challenge in YouTube, was sort of getting past my parents.
Yeah, it wasn't the algorithm, it was the parents. And then what? Because you were, I think, one of the youngest to get to like 1 million followers or something, or
Yeah, one
yeah.
of the youngest in the UK at the time to hit 1 million followers, got to 2.5 million, decided to burn the boats, leave that all behind at 19, just wanted to build a generational company. Felt like I'd achieved everything.
Okay, whoa. I gotta stop there because you wanted to build a generational company. Like, did you really think that, or is that now how you talk about it?
I had future billionaire in my Instagram bio when I quit at 19. So that was
Okay,
like
all right,
I'm going to
all
put
right.
this in there because we're going to build that. So obviously, like we had plenty of failed unicorns.
But in your mind, either then or now, what do you think is a generational company? What defines it?
I think it's something that defines, it's a category leader that really defines an industry over a long period of time
Okay.
and has a massive impact and changes the world in some way, right?
Yep.
Like I think about Airbnb, changed the world in some way. Like it fundamentally made a
Yep.
difference. That's probably what I'd say it is now. Like back then, it was like unicorn. Like I really wanted to, that was kind of in our heads. We're like, oh, we're going to try to build a unicorn.
You are the one of the co-founders, co-CEO
Yeah,
of Fanvue,
exactly.
a company that's about 5 years old, and we're going to talk about how you got to where you got. But you're now at a $200 million revenue run rate, which you just talked about or made public, with about 120-ish employees. So already very efficient. That's one of the metrics, in my opinion, of super companies is revenue per employee. It's not the only metric, but I think it is one metric we're going to use as a shorthand
Yep.
to identify super companies. So you're sitting at around $2 million, revenue per employee, which is pretty great for a company of your size and maturity. That one number is pretty outstanding. But let's go back before we go forward. So there was two others, so three of you. You walked away from a very promising early career, I guess, as a YouTuber to build something significant. Tell me about your two co-founders.
I met Will quite soon after that, and we started working on a bunch of stuff. I basically knew a guy at uni, and I was like, "Listen, who's the best person you know?" And they weren't available, and so the next person was Will. No, I'm joking, it was Will. That's
Right.
what I always say. And then we started working on a bunch of different things. I think when we met, we were just like, "Oh well, we both got the same level of ambition," and that was like a little bit rare, I think, from in terms of how we'd got to so far in life. And then Harry, our other co-founder, was the COO of Cage Warriors, which is like the European UFC.
Okay.
At 19, he was in some crazy position at that age, and then yeah, we managed to convince him to join us very early on.
There
So
was a moment you almost ran out of money, I know. So talk about that.
yeah, so we did originally raise capital. I managed to meet some great early investors in my YouTube days. Like I had actually done YouTube videos, like sponsorship videos for their companies, and then I
Okay.
built relationships with them, and then they ended up backing us. And we didn't raise a bunch of money. We kind of bootstrapped it at very early on, and then raised. And then, like you said, things started going quite well for a while, and then things started to unravel and didn't go so well. And we had some quote unquote black swans that probably weren't black swans to experienced people, but they were to us at our experience level. And we lost money in a few different places, and we were very close to bankrupt for about, well, we were 5 months away from bankruptcy.
So things are going well, meaning customers, revenue.
We got to like 4 million in top line. Things are going well.
Okay, that's real.
And then all of a sudden we lose some money and we're like, oh no.
So 5 months runway. So you got to a point where you're 5 months left of cash, basically.
No. We were 5 months left of cash 5 months before that. So we basically got down to the last couple of days, but we had 5 months of like,
Oh
we
yeah,
lost the
5 months
money.
trying to figure it out. And
Yes, we had 5 months of plateau. We're going to die. We need to save ourselves. And that wasn't what we were necessarily saying in the moment. But it was very tough.
how did you handle the stress back then? Do you remember? What were your strategies to just manage that? Manage yourself and your
Yeah, it's
co-founders.
crystal clear. We were big into Stoicism. That was what got us through, because the external world, there was nothing there. There was no validation. Like our investors broadly were not hopeful. We were not growing. The market wasn't telling us anything good. And all we could do, because obviously our identities, as it is, were wrapped up in this company, all we could do to feel good was to focus on what we knew we needed to do in that very day. Like, to not drop the standards, but to actually raise them. And I was a big probabilistic thinker and always have been and still am. But that was the moment where you just couldn't do the maths. You couldn't run that because it wasn't looking good. But you just focus, like, the only way I can actually feel good in this moment is if I put it in today. And then that's it. And you do the same thing again tomorrow. And I know that if we hadn't have had the right mindset in that times, we wouldn't be here talking today, because it was so damn close that any slip,
Right.
we would have just not made it, because that was how close it was. It was like getting the train and making the train in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
If you're not flat out sprint from the moment you realize you might miss the train, you're not making it.
So when you say Stoicism, I want to go back to that. So were all three of you into it, or is there one of you and were you like literally waking up in the morning and reading a page, so to speak?
We were all very into it.
Meaning what? Like reading Ryan Holiday or other stuff?
Yeah, reading Ryan Holiday, and we dipped into meditations and what have you. But mostly, I think, the really practical stuff.
You're relying on the Stoics and you're showing up every day.
And focusing on what we could control.
What you could
we
control.
Couldn't control.
Right.
We could only control putting everything in every single day. And at least if we had failed, we'd know that we gave it everything.
Yeah. And it was the three of you in a room? Like, were you guys in the same office every day?
Yeah, so my co-founder, myself and Will have lived together for the last 6 years.
Oh, okay.
So, we've lived together for, like, still right now to this day.
All right. Okay.
It's a really interesting relationship. It's been a marriage, right? When you sort of found and live together for all that time. Anyway, moving swiftly onwards, I think, we were in a room, and essentially when it got sort of a month and a half away, sort of 65% of the company's job was to fundraise.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point we're like, okay, no, everyone's on outreach. And we got into a room with a guy, like the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, pitched our hearts out, and for whatever reason, he saw something, because there wasn't a lot to see in terms of, like, external, but he saw something in us. And turns out that was a good decision for him and very good decision for us. And
Joel, what was the pitch in that moment? Just because let's level set on what you guys at that moment wanted to do and build. Like, what was the going forward plan at that point?
The pitch was, I was a creator for a lot of my life. I only ever made money from ads, selling other people's stuff. We think it makes a lot of sense on a macro level that creators are going to want to sell their own stuff to monetize directly. That's what we're building. And by the way, AI is the unlock in that. And no one else has figured it out at that time. No one else. We are the market leader for that. We know it's not necessarily gaining traction yet, but trust us, we're going to make it work. Hopefully it was a little bit more compelling than that.
I guess the convergence there was the timing of generative AI, ChatGPT and everything else was around that same time, right? 2022, 23.
Yeah, we were early, and we just, the thesis was there was just not a lot of traction, or not a lot of forward traction, upwards traction.
So this guy wrote a check.
Yeah.
On my last startup, this was a long time ago, probably 15 years ago, driving home one night, and I remember this like yesterday, from the offices in the city, and I was driving down south to Palo Alto on Highway 280. It was dark, probably 9 o'clock at night. I'd left the office probably around 8:15. And I remember saying to myself, no matter what, I'm going to make this pivot work. This company will not die. And I said to myself, I'll give up everything, including my marriage, to make this happen. I won't give up my kids. This is what I said to myself, somewhat delusional, right? I won't give up my kids. We have 3 kids, but I'm willing to sacrifice the marriage, is basically what I said as I drove home to see my wife and kids, and not to have dinner with them because it was 9 o'clock. Anyway, I mean, it seems crazy now that I would even think that. But in that moment, this refusal to die, I think is just sometimes is what it takes.
Sometimes it takes everything.
Yeah.
And you have to be relentless, and you have to be prepared to give it everything. And I think that, in a way, being so close to death and that being so brutal has taught us and really scarred us in a positive way, because there's just no way we're going back to that.
Right.
And we raised that money. We went like our life depended it again, and we've had a record month every single month since. And not a single non-record month. And I intend to keep that streak going.
And you raised venture capital about a year ago, or?
Yeah, we raised 22 million a year ago.
Okay. And you are spending that wisely, presumably.
We'd like to think so.
Yeah.
That's
So
a big thing.
tell me what took off. You got the money, and then it was AI to use it in terms of tooling to make the influencer more productive and monetize better. Is it synthetic influencers? Is it both? Like, just what happened?
It was a combination of those two things. So the tooling was getting better and better. The underlying models were getting better and better, as you know. And so that hit, as well as AI creators, synthetic creators as well, starting to gain some really good traction at the same time. Both of those really took off. And then I think it's really been riding that momentum ever since then. And so just being growth at all costs. While I think we've been really efficient, we've also been really aggressive and try to be aggressively efficient, aggressive.
That's a tough balance. You said
Yeah.
growth at all costs, and then efficient, and the like.
Yeah. I think it's really been, I mean, ultimately, it was always part of the thesis. The thesis was like, this thing makes so much sense. Creators are going to want to monetize directly. It's accretive in so many ways, but it just takes up way too much time. Well, what's going to enable make creating content and scaling connection and scaling a business take less time? AI is that unlock. So
Yeah.
it's been a continuation of that. Obviously, I think we'd had a really good position in a fast growing market, and we've just continuously executed in the different growth areas that we think are really exciting, and a long way to go still. But
I'm curious, how many of the human creators are also creating synthetic influencers, or what's the balance on the platform? How much of this is synthetic or human in terms of the influencers or creators?
yeah, absolutely. So in terms of completely synthetic or AI, it's sort of 50%. So it's about 50-50. But then to your point is like certainly I see in the future and a lot of now, and that's the point, is human creators are of course using AI to create
Right.
content. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's part of the unlock for human creators as much as it is for AI creators. And I don't think either replaces the other. I think it's even as someone like when I started YouTube, I hated the fact that my face was on camera. I was
Hmm.
not confident in the slightest. And if I could have used AI to create content, like that would have been insane. I think there's so many people that never created content or never did that because they would just never envision themselves.
The synthetic influencer or creator, are they representing someone, or is it someone who maybe has created two or three different synthetic personas? You know what I mean? Like, or is it a mix?
Yeah, it's super cool. I think the way to think about it is it's exactly the same as a normal creator, apart from the fact that the person is not using their self to create content. They're using technology to create content. To your
Okay.
point, to begin with, they of course create one character or persona. In theory, they could use AI to create themselves, although we would probably then end up classifying them as a human
Right.
creator
Yeah.
because kind of duplicating it. But a lot of the time, like you said, is people make 2, 3, 4 different personas and they'll scale it up that way because you can, right? You're no longer limited by yourself. People are creating agencies that essentially build these characters and personas as you'd imagine is natural as well. So yeah, that business and agency side is also a massive part of what we're building and the infrastructure we're providing.
And then these influencers or creators are labeled as synthetic or not on your platform. So as a consumer, I know.
Yeah, it has to be transparent. It all has to be transparent.
Do those lines blur at some point in your mind?
People have been connecting with non-real characters for centuries, right? Like if you look
Uh-huh.
at Disney and what have you. And so ultimately it's entertainment. And so definitely the lines blur. I don't think people are going to see a big difference. Like they're just going to look at what's the value I'm getting from this thing and judge it based on that. And especially as you go younger in terms of generations,
Hmm.
it's getting more and more normal. If you look at likes of character AI and
Hmm.
the usage time or something like that. I know a few YouTubers who've created YouTube channels of completely AI personas, and their whole read is like, yeah, sort of my 30-year-old fan base are like not so sure. My 18-year-old fan base are more interested, and sort of the younger you go, the more normalized it is. And so I think that's a big factor. I don't see AI being the majority of the creator economy by any stretch. I think it's going to be 20% of a future, I think, 1 trillion industry. So it's still a big chunk, but it's not going to be the majority.
You think of the influencer economy or creator economy, you think it's still predominantly humans who will command a premium and command the audiences that we're gonna want to follow and fall in love with.
Yeah, I still think humans will be the most dominant, but I think AI creators are going to be a big chunk.
I noticed you signed some guy. I'd never heard of him, and I'm kind of a soccer guy, at least from this side of the pond. I'm a big Arsenal fan. I'd never heard of this guy, but you signed some soccer.
Fabrizio Romano.
Yeah, Fabrizio. Right. He's like the guy, right, as it relates to transfers. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the here we go guy.
Yeah. And so I would imagine that's in part because you want to expand quickly out of what is not safe for work content or sex, and you want a much broader creator profile and platform. I assume you're not just that.
No, exactly. I think that's been, if you look at the early iterations of the direct model, that's been, and I think with a lot of things, that's where the innovation goes, even if you take the likes of Snapchat early on. But the creator economy is massive. And I mean, we launched Cardi B in February earlier this year, and there's been a lot of really great progress. So like always the focus has been to cater for the entire creator economy. I think even to this day, less than 1.5% of the creator economy as a whole is using a direct subscription platform of this kind. So like it's a blue ocean out there.
So most of the creator economy is currently on basically media platforms.
Yeah, most of them are just making money from advertising.
On ads, right? Yeah.
And to do that, and we think to really provide that, and this is the kind of the bigger picture that we've been talking about a lot, is like we think you need to build out the full infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And so we're not just building a platform, we'd also build out the App Store and the APIs so anyone can build on top of Fanvue and any major company can integrate into Fanvue, which we think is really interesting. But also the payment rails, the fintech layer, the ability to have cards as a creator, all these kind of things. Trying to build up that full stack, just like Shopify did for no one's done that for the creator economy yet. So that AI infrastructure layer, that's what we're building.
Why would companies want to plug in? Do you mean agencies? Do you mean marketers?
So imagine when Drake launches, and Drake does a lot of stuff on Stake or Kalshi, for example, and Drake goes, in my direct monetization experience or in my fan club, I want people to be able to make predictions on Kalshi with me. And so then Kalshi can integrate directly into that and get access to Drake's distribution. But everyone wins. That's like a really cool experience. And so what we're envisioning is the sort of old versions of how this works has been like very narrow. I think it's like content, community, and it's like pay for content and community. But what we're trying to build is like this entire virtual world that a creator could offer, to the point where a fitness creator can have calorie counter integrated into it and videos, all of these different pieces. We obviously knew we were never going to build all this functionality internally, but if we can open it up for an app store and create a marketplace for that, then others would build it. And then likewise, big companies are going to want to integrate because we have the creators and the creators are trying to create offerings.
You're building a world for the creator to lead, if you will, right? To monetize and to connect with their audiences in different ways. Okay, let's talk about building Fanvue into a super company, a generational company, as you said. And the near-death moment, back on track, AI is the unlock. That single new investor, it seemed like a single new investor, the billionaire guy, and then the 22 million more recently from a VC. How is this business operating on the inside? You're on Slack. What AI platform are you guys on? Have you committed to one, and do you run the business on Claude or GPT or?
Yeah, so Claude, we've been pretty committed to Claude for a while. Obviously, we've built things in a way that can be agnostic.
Yeah.
So Orion is our company brain, which started off as just essentially our queryable data, but has sort of moved into more the context layer for the company. And so the LLMs will plug into that. That's provided.
What's Orion? Is that's what you call it, or is that some application? What's Orion? That's your internal name?
That's what we call it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's your company second brain.
AI
where's that pulling that context from? That's pulling it from Slack, from Granola, from email. Like, what's the insides of Orion?
It's pulling it from everywhere, like you said. So
Mm-hmm.
it started off with our data warehouse, our data lake. So
Yep.
you can go anyone in the company could figure out data that would normally take a week for an analyst to ask in a second. That was like the first unlock. And then obviously connected in, okay, then how are we storing people's objectives, their progress towards those objectives? How are we storing all the communications, the context from the calls, context from communication, trying to really build up that essentially company context layer, and then use that to help move the company forward. So whether it's querying or more specifically, I think it's helping to take care of the management layer. So helping people, helping to move things forward, helping to follow up. I think we took relatively early, like the decision that we wanted to keep things as flat as possible, go with really like strong functional leaders, flat, lean teams in the world of AI. And we felt like that was going to be a big thing. And then this is, I think that's coming through. Like, let's see, obviously, like you take things to a little bit too extreme and you pull them back a little bit and you make those adjustments.
Are you recording every meeting internally? Like, do you record internal meetings with
100%.
Granola or not?
It's missing data. When the people want to miss data.
Yeah, for sure. And then what about like public versus private Slack? Are you guys using Slack, presumably?
Yes.
And are you kind of encouraging more and more public conversations so the agents can see that versus private?
Yeah, avoiding DMs and what have you, keeping it in channels as a really important thing. And then like what I've always tried to do is be on the bleeding edge myself. So like I built out a context engine 9 months ago, which was personalized to me. It's kind of updates autonomously as well as with my input on different segments, and it keeps a live brief of every major project or sub project going so that the LLM can read into that. So I've tried to always, and then a bunch of different things. Like
Let's talk about it. So let's be a little more specific here, though. And maybe pick the thing that's generating the most value for you personally, in terms of
me personally.
in terms of running or building this company. In terms of that personal context layer or whatever you want to call it. When you start your day, how are you starting your day now? That's a little different. Or how are you checking in on these projects? Are you doing that, via Claude or via desktop app or what? Just walk us through that.
So I'll start the day with /plan day, and that's a command that I'll go through. It'll read my weekly goals that have been set up. It'll read anything that's going on. It knows all my preferences. It knows Monday how I like to have a day. Like I'm quite specific. Like I don't like to have calls before 10:30. I want to have massive deep work block almost like every morning. It knows when I like to process things. It knows when I want to be in manager maker mode, when I go gym, etc. So I'll run through that, and then that will help me to pick. I'll be like, okay, it's normally Whisper Flow. I'll go back and forth. Claude Code specifically. I sort of use a mixture of Claude Code and the Claude app depending on the specific use case.
You're starting your day in Claude.
Yeah.
And basically asking Claude to suggest how you might want to allocate your time that day, each morning.
Yes.
Pretty much. And you're talking via Whisper Flow to Claude.
Exactly.
At that point. Yeah.
So I'll do that. And then broadly, there's basically the context layer and there's 3 or 4 commands. So in deep work, like I said, there's the context layer, which is aiming to keep things as up to date as possible. And then my commands will also update the context layer or help me to do things faster. Plan days, plan the day faster. And then generally through a task, more or less 80% of tasks I do are with AI. Like there's basically probably, I don't know the exact, but it's 80 to 90.
Are you starting with AI or AI is being, or I guess it's probably all the above. I mean, you might start the task with AI, you might go to AI halfway through the task, or you might finish up, clean it up with AI. I would imagine it's kind of a mix of all the above. Or
It's a mix of all the above, but I think I normally just start the task with AI.
Okay.
So I've got my day planned, all the weekly goals, have a numbering system. So it's very easy to be like, oh, let's pick up 57 or whatever it might be to AI. And so there's like tricks like that help you to interact with the models quicker.
So you have a numbering system for projects, for tasks?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so my weekly goals will be like 1 to 10, and it'll be 1A, 1B, 1C, basically the subtasks. And then the other big thing that helps me, and I would say my weekly goals are like bigger things that I need to do. And then I have another really critical command in my life, which is slash process.
Tell us about that. Yeah.
I'll tell you about slash process. So I'll run slash process, and that will bring me probably a list of 40 to 70 things that are really quick action items, what I call manager mode items that I need to do. So chase up this person, sign this document, whatever it might be, all these things. And these will be pulled either with AI, always with my approval. So I always just end up getting a list of these from sources at the end of the day, and I'll go, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, in terms of adding them into this list. Or I have a keyboard shortcut. Right now, I could press a keyboard shortcut and type something, and it will end up in that list. And then what I do is that, again, gives me a numbered list from, say, 1 to 40, and I will work through that. And this is something I would highly advise trying, is I'll go, okay, on number 1, do X, Y, and Z. On number 2, could you just research into this for me and check and suggest a next action? On number 3, could you just check what James said on Slack about this, and then I'll confirm with you what to do. And so you basically in voice mode process through those, and you do like some things you can say, just do this thing. Some things it's like give the agent a task, and it's connected to my Slack, my WhatsApp, everything. And it's also able to send those things on my behalf. So that's probably my biggest gain in terms of that, and the fact that we're looking at a Series B in the next couple of months. And I did our deck with AI like pretty much like very quickly before I would have done it with a designer. And then I also like sort of myself and our CFO, I originally did the first pass of reverse engineering our business model very quickly with AI. And so like the point of that is we expect everyone to be an IC to a degree. Because it's so easy to be an IC right now, and you can get a little leverage.
Are your co-founders working the same way?
I would say maybe they can come on and contest this, but I would say I'm probably the most advanced.
Okay,
but they definitely have lots of the stuff.
And how much? And are you most advanced because you're getting value from it, or because you're trying to model the behavior you want the rest of the company to follow, or both?
I got very interested in it specifically. I've definitely had moments where I'm like, wait a sec, I am the CEO here. I probably need to not spend weekends building AI systems. But some of that I think is good learning and good, certainly modeling it. So all in, yeah, definitely getting really exciting value from it. But you do need to make sure you temper the depth of it.
And what are your expectations of your direct reports, or that management layer below you guys, as co-CEOs, or whatever that layer looks like? What's your expectation of them in terms of how AI enabled you expect them to be working?
It's been a heavy mandate for us for a while. So our big mantras have been just AI first. Like AI is the default for anything. Like, can I do this with AI as a default? We've also it's kind of quite hard because everyone gets messages in Slack and you can see it's been sent by Claude. Metrics get sent on a daily basis to people that need the right metrics by Claude. Like, it's very much an environment where, and we talk about AI adoption, the different use cases in the all hands every time, like people must be sick of us. But I think that's important. And then in terms of, I think it's been less just everyone in the company rather than just direct reports has had like a very clear directive that, and I don't think we felt too bad saying this because we genuinely think it's true, is like, you are going to be left behind if you're not like very quickly learning this stuff and becoming AI native. And we are going to expect more of you, and we are expecting more stuff to get done. And so if you're going to get more done, you need to be focused on this. We really tried to combine leaner teams, give people more autonomy, give people the tools, the leverage, the freedom to experiment. But with that comes more responsibility and higher expectations. And like ultimately out of that, I think it's been pretty effective.
Have you had to lose anyone in the org because they wouldn't come along and work this way?
Yeah. Like, I think there's an AI native standard that's expected. And like, there's certainly, I'm not saying that we've directly is not necessarily been the only reason, but it's a big part of it.
And do you screen now in hiring, Joel, for people that are going to work this way? Or are most candidates showing up, do you think, willing to work this way? Or like, what's your sense of when you guys are interviewing? You've obviously done a lot of hiring the last year.
Yeah.
Are candidates showing up saying, they know I get it, I'm going to build my own second brain and I'm going to figure out sort of, or is it more like they're showing the interest in doing it and the aptitude, and you're going to show them once they start?
It's been very rare to find someone say they're not using AI. So you do need to dig into that properly. That being said, so we do screen it early on. I think we've ramped it up recently. So say a year and a half ago, we were more forgiving because it was like, okay, do you seem like a curious person? Do you have the right mindset? Are you really excellent? And are you somewhat interested in AI? We're not expecting you to have a full system.
Right.
Whereas I think if someone really does have surface level now, there's not that many real A players who haven't got curious by this point. Maybe this is sad, I should say, but that's just...
No, I think that's right. I mean, we're 3.5 years in, right? So
it's first interview, and then we've always done a cultural fit, and it's now essentially AI fluency is one of the cultural pillars that we grade people in the cultural fit.
Have you changed how you interview at all? Like, are you watching people work with AI, with Claude or something like that as part of the interview process or screening process?
So we obviously in coding, in terms of non-coding, it's been, more so in terms of getting them to speak through their specific applications rather than directly watching them work. That being said, I think that would be what I would do if, it's one of the things on the list.
Is the company more, again, you don't have a point of comparison here in terms of another company you started, but to get to 200 million in revenue run rate with 120, 30 employees, like, are you more efficient than you think you would have been without AI, or it's hard to know?
My intuition is that there's no doubt we're much more efficient. That's for sure. But then equally, still, there's a lot on the table. I think there's a lot on the table industry-wide, and it's a bit about the technology coming. And so I think we're in that healthy middle ground where we know we're expecting a lot more from people, and we can see that people are doing some extraordinary things that just 2 years ago, like, it would be like a team's work to be getting this much stuff done. That being said, there's still so much more to go and so much more we need to improve on. And I think probably a lot of people need to improve on. So I would say we're in a good place.
Do you think you're co-creating the company with Claude? When you think about it, do you think about it that way? Like, Claude is helping you create and manage this company?
Not quite. I think it's like no much more than I would, or we would think we're co-creating the company with Apple and our MacBooks, because it's still so much relative to like your input. And I see AI more as just an extension of human capability, very much so.
The way I talk about it internally at Section is that we are going to co-create the company with Claude. At the rate of progress in terms of these capabilities from these systems, I don't think that's an outrageous thing, a way to think about it.
I think in practice we are. It's my point more philosophical.
Well, I mean, if we're all co-creating with Claude, by the way, we're going to have undifferentiated companies that aren't competitive. So we can co-create with Claude to a point, and then the humans are going to have to make it unique and special and differentiated. Otherwise, we're all going to have companies without moats and therefore with no margins. Yeah, let's talk about the numbers. More revenue, growing people, but not at the same rate. So you are becoming very efficient. More markets. Are you global? Yeah, just talk about the next 12 months.
I think the next 12 months for us is really executing on the roadmap and building out that full infrastructure that we spoke about before. Whether that's like properly seeing the App Store take shape, that's going to happen. The creator, the payment sides, the creator fintech layer, I think that's going to be really, really exciting. Continuing to push the boundaries in terms of the names and the types of names that we're getting on board on the platform soon, one would hope.
Good.
And yeah, I think very focused on getting to $1 billion top
in revenue
next year. That's the focus.
So billion is total revenue, not your take, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Total revenue through the system. It's gross. Okay. So $1 billion is the next milestone. By the way, have you taken some money off the table, you and the co-founders?
Not yet.
Okay. You need to do that soon. Just my advice from a guy who's done 7 startups. At some point,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, I think when the time's right. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I know.
pretty excited about the upside.
There's lots of upside. It's also good to put some money in the bank, Joel.
Yeah. Okay.
You know.
Got it.
Uh, Listen, a couple things I want to say. You are building a company a different way. When you have time, you don't yet, but when you can, share what you're doing with others as much as you can, so they can build the way you're building. You may not realize how differently you're building this company in terms of even just how you talked about your own day and how you start your day and how you basically kind of lean on Claude to help you be that much either smarter or more efficient. And I just think that every entrepreneur is going to need to learn how to build companies this way. I think you do have a chance to be a super company. And again, we'll know in 10 years. And I think that super companies are really different on the inside, and it's not always clear to others how to do it. So I appreciate you joining us for this podcast, obviously this conversation. And again, when you get moments, any time to do it, please, talk about it. Tell others how you're building Fanvue, because I think this is going to be how companies are valuable and profitable, is building and operating this way,
Completely agree, Greg. Yeah, I absolutely will do that as much as possible. I think the world's fundamentally changing, and I think creates a lot of opportunity if you can,
For sure.
you can go with it.
Well, congrats. From YouTube to near death, to $200 million in revenue run rate, heading to $1 billion, and a $2 million revenue per employee. You are on the way to becoming a super company. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Greg. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Super Companies. I hope you'll follow or subscribe. Come back next week. We'll talk about how to build a super company again.